our time is limited. I could walk out there and like get hit by a bus and none of it will matter. So I always think the time is now. And so whatever that dream is, it's now.
Welcome to the Paul Plett podcast. This is basically an excuse for me to sit down and have a conversation with people that I find interesting. And joining me today is Joseph Sevillo. Joseph is an actor, a singer, a dancer, a creator, a director,
Choreographer.
an incredible human being.
Thank you.
Welcome here, Joseph.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
For people who don't know you or who you're just like meeting for the first time, how do you introduce yourself? How do you tell them who you are and what you do?
Well, I basically just lead with my passion. So, hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a professional musical theater artist. Kind of wraps it up all in one. Because I have been a professional musical theater artist for the last 27 years. And so with that, starting as a performer, a singer, dancer, actor, I've learned to choreograph, direct, and then eventually to survive, you need money. So you got to wear more hats.
Yeah.
And essentially, I ended up in this place where I've created my own musical.
Yeah. Wow. That's like everything in a nutshell.
Everything.
Professional musical theater artist. What is that?
So professional musical theater artist is I've spent enough time to earn my Canadian Actors Equity Association card. So it's sort of like when an actor is in film, they earn their actor card, which deems them as a professional. For me, I've done that for theater. So I'm part of an association where I pay yearly dues. And so anytime I get hired for theater, there's a minimum rate that I would make as a director, choreographer, and performer.
Wow, so you're like part of like, is it like a theater guild? Theater?
In a way, it's an association. I used to think it was like a union, but they're not a union. So we get some benefits, not as like good as I would want, but it's I've been a professional since I was 17 when I worked at the Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre as a teenager.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. So part of, so you're like you are like a theater insider in Manitoba.
Yeah, and it's what I do full time. Like this is what my full-time career is as a professional musical theater performer. I don't do it part-time. It's something that encompasses my whole life.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we got to figure out how you got there. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Born and raised here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, to parents that are from the Philippines. So both my mom and dad immigrated here in 1981 with 4 kids. And I was the 5th child, so I was the first Canadian-born child out of 6 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My wife, her whole family is from Mexico.
Oh.
Yeah, Mexican Mennonites.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, and she was the first born here in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. Also of 5 kids?
Yeah.
So you have
There's
4
6 altogether.
6
so
altogether.
5 siblings, yeah. Second youngest.
Second youngest. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
What was it like growing up with 5 other siblings here in Winnipeg?
Well, we lived very poor. So my earliest memory was living in a apartment in St. Vital with all my siblings. So I think my earliest memory age is 4 years old. Okay. So that meant my brother was 3, and then it was like kind of a staircase. There was a gap between me and my older brother because my mom had a miscarriage by accident. Okay. So when I was 4, he was 6, and then 7, 8, 9 were the kids that were all living in this I believe my recollection was it was a 2-bedroom apartment or 3. Okay. So all the girls were together, all the boys slept in the same room, and then my mom and dad had their own room. So it was a 3-bedroom apartment in St. Vital, and I remember it being always fun to have siblings. Yeah. I would say that I was the one that got what I wanted somehow a lot. I don't know why. Yeah. I just liked attention, obviously, as an actor, as a performer. And so in the arena of sharing the space with your parents, I just naturally knew how to grab their attention. And, and always try to make my environment fun. Yeah, so I was always about joking, playing games, singing, dancing around. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So Joseph Sevillo gets what he wants somehow. So yeah, I mean, there was, and then obviously early on, there was a theater bug. What happened?
Yeah, well, I was always into academics because we grew up poor. There was an onus to do well academically,
Sure.
so then we can have great jobs.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until a random moment, I believe it was in grade 6, where our elementary school was doing a baseball musical, and I knew nothing about singing, dancing, or acting, but I was quite a keener, like as a student growing up in public school, and the teacher asked me to play this role, and it had a singing solo, and I didn't know I could sing, but me being quite ambitious, I just thought I could and did, and found out that there was something there.
How old were you?
Well, grade 6, so 11.
Sure,
10, maybe.
Grade 6. So grade 6, never sung. Had you acted before?
Nothing.
But you sort of performed at home.
At home.
For fun.
Yeah.
Not like performances, just like sort of liking attention.
Just liking attention and making up my own songs. And we were like our parents always tried to get us involved in our culture. So I was part of a folk dance group when I was 8 called Karilagan, and they tried to make us play these Filipino instruments. But at that point, I wasn't prepared for that kind of attention or that spotlight, so I didn't enjoy it.
Sure.
I liked being like a kid and free and doing whatever I wanted in the privacy of my home. So when that happened, it was nerve-wracking, but it had something to do with school. So I remember getting
the baseball musical.
The baseball musical. So I remember thinking, well, I need to do this because I want good grades.
Yeah.
And I want my teachers to respect me. And what resulted in it was my parents seeing me for the first time sing in a public space, and then they thought I did well, and then we kind of ignored it, you know, until I went to Grant Park High School, and I guess it was the right high school to be part of because
just like another high school in the city.
In my catchment area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was either River Heights or Grant Park that I was going to go to. And at that point, all my older siblings went to River Heights.
Okay.
And so Grant Park, there was no more space. So I had to go to Grant Park. I was the first sibling to go to Grant Park.
Okay.
And so that was new for my family.
Yeah.
And I just happened to randomly fall into a dance class because I was tricked into it. A friend of mine, it was an extracurricular at that time, and my friend knew I was such a goody two-shoes that she said that there's a student council meeting, like to run for vice president, president, treasurer, and I was all into that. So I went, and then when I went, it wasn't actually, it wasn't a student council meeting, it was a dance class, extracurricular.
Whoa.
But somehow I had this attitude, just like now, like this is my first like long form podcast.
Sure.
You know, I always had that mentality of like, well, you can't judge something unless you tried it.
Oh, that's a good mentality. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I thought, okay, well, there's a bunch of people in this room and it's only going to be an hour. So why don't I give it a try and then judge after? And something about that one class, I always thought to myself that the industry chose me. Like I didn't really choose the industry first. Like it chose me because having that moment of like, you know, getting used to getting straight A's and being part of the advanced placement program in school and like being really into academics, and then having this epiphany after one dance class. Well, it was overwhelming because after that one dance class, I knew that I loved it. I knew that I needed to know more, and I knew that I needed to do it again. I don't know why. It was just something that I was never really used to doing. Okay. It was so much newness in 1 hour that connected with me. Yeah. I liked the physicality. I liked the music. I liked dancing synchronized. Yeah. I liked trying to memorize things.
Had you seen, like, at this, what grade was this?
This was grade 7.
Okay. Oh, so the year after the
year after.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So still like it's all kind of happening. Had you seen musicals? Had you like so had those connected with you? Did you like musicals?
No, because we were dancing to Janet Jackson songs.
Yeah.
So in
this grade 7.
In the grade 7 dance class. So it didn't really resonate right away. Growing up, I watched my siblings go do musicals at River Heights, like Oliver and Oklahoma, and I enjoyed them. Yeah. I remember listening to voices, nice voices, And I liked watching people act in character wearing costumes. And that's all I knew. And then with the dancing, it was separate. Like my journey into theater was very separate from dance. I equated it to watching old clips of Star Search.
I don't know what that is. What is it?
Well, Star Search was like the old American Idol.
Okay.
I think Ed McMahon, who's this millionaire that was the host of it.
Okay.
And it was how Britney Spears, like, she competed in it. And it was always like, it was a talent competition. So it wasn't just singing. It was like anyone that had talent, they would compete with each other and they would make it to the end. And I remember a lot of these male dance singing groups that would dance in a way that was like Backstreet Boys.
Yes.
And it was elevated, and I didn't understand it, but I knew I liked watching it.
Yeah.
And so when I was in that dance class, it brought me back to that, oh wow, like I always wish that I was talented. Like I wish that I knew how to do what I'm watching on TV.
I wish I was talented too.
You are. We all have our talents. I think everyone definitely has a talent. Just might not be the one you want, but everyone does, So that's what it was. It was the music and the way the body was moving that connected something to me.
This is grade 7. Janet Jackson
songs, because we did a Janet Jackson like medley of songs.
Okay.
So yeah, it really got me into the mindset of like, maybe I could dance as a career. So dance was really my intro into this whole industry.
Oh, wow.
I think that it was something that I had zero training in at 13 years old at that time. And I didn't know why it was connecting really fast. Why it came semi-natural to let go in that form. And it got me so curious that I got my mom to enroll me at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, which oddly enough at that time was providing free dance classes for males. So then we signed up for every dance class. So I was dancing about 5 to 6 days a week. Taking like 7 classes. Essentially for free. Like we had to pay, like if the tuition was $500 a year for one class, we had to pay $60 only because it was the admin fee that we'd be paying for. But for my family, that was affordable. And especially for my parents to have one of their kids be very busy at something that was part of like an elite institution, like the Royal Winnipeg Ballet is well known. It was really helpful for me to be in that space, training intensely.
Wow. And was there so this is grade 7 still?
This was grade 7 all throughout my high school years.
Was there a point at which, I mean, sort of, it sounds like you were asked to do some things and it happened to sort of connect, you had some natural talents to do those things, and then that sort of led you to notice like, oh, there's a whole bunch of stars lining up, there's a path here. What was there a point at which you thought, I'd like to pursue this as a career? When did that happen?
I knew that when I was 15.
Okay.
So 2 years later. So what happened was I was in the dance program, and at that point, the dance instructor at Grant Park was married to the choir director. So it was Robin Dow and George Budalowski, and they were a married pair, eventually married during my school history.
Oh, so you like watched it happen?
I believe so. That's my recollection. They weren't together before, but they were, I think, maybe dating. And so naturally thriving in the dance program, it bled into the musicals. And so I remember them encouraging me to audition for Rainbow Stage because they were doing a production of South Pacific, which centered a lot on like Polynesian actors, which are not Polynesian, but you know, they needed Asian looking actors. Sure. And I didn't know anything about Rainbow Stage. I didn't know anything about professional theater.
Rainbow Stage is the main stage theater here in Winnipeg.
It's the largest and longest outdoor theater in Canada.
Thank you.
So it's huge.
Yeah.
It's, for our theater, we have a couple, like we have MTC, the Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre, Prairie Theatre Exchange. We have Manitoba Theatre for Young People, and we have the Shakespearean Outdoor Company. Shakespeare in the Ruins, and there's smaller theater companies. But Rainbow Stage is a huge institution that has been in business for 70 years.
Yeah, it's like a big outdoor amphitheater. It's really cool, and it really draws everybody. It's a big audience can come. I mean, I know that a lot of people that don't go to the theater go to Rainbow Stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's family friendly because people have their picnics outside.
I saw South Pacific at Rainbow Stage.
Oh,
I don't know if it was but it was like, I remember it was one show when I was a kid.
Okay.
And there was a line I remember, because it's a line when one of the characters talks about how much it was raining, and then he looks up and he's like, it's not raining now, and it was pouring rain.
Oh, interesting.
So the whole crowd just laughed. It's like a, a laugh that's unintended, right?
Yeah, that's fun. You know, if it was 1997, that was me. You saw me in my first ever production.
I bet it was.
I bet it was too. If you remember, like a beautiful waterfall, like there was a set piece with this waterfall.
I mean, it was amazing. Like for me, the few times I've gone to the theater several times throughout my life, and every time it's just mind blowing. Yeah. And you always, as a creative person watching the theater, you're always like, I wish I could be there. Yeah. I want to be there, part of that. What's happening? It's amazing. It's magical. So it led you to Rainbow Stage.
It led me to Rainbow Stage. I did my first audition, didn't know how to sing, showed up as this awkward 13-year-old with a bunch of younger kids, because they were two Polynesian character kids that were about 10 years old and like, let's say 8 years old. Well, I was too old to play them. So I ended up getting a spot as a random ensemble member.
Okay.
And at that time, I didn't even really know what ensemble meant. All I knew is that I like dancing, and so I hope I get to dance. Well, at 13, in hindsight now, it's like, well, if I don't have a resume, they're not going to entrust me with difficult choreography. They want to hire me for my look and maybe a little bit of my singing talent that I displayed. So it was kind of interesting, because that was the one memory where at the same time I had auditioned for the professional division program at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet.
Okay.
Because I was after I did my first dance class at Grant Park, it was instant where I wanted my mom to enroll me in dance classes. Okay. So I was in dance classes, and they noticed me there too. And they wanted me to audition for the professional division program, which essentially trains kids more intensely in ballet, and then eventually they might get into the company. And they gave me a full scholarship after my audition to be part of that program, but I had to choose between that or Rainbow Stage. And I remember my choir director being like, well, you don't like ballet. Like, ballet is not your passion. Like, you like performing. Like, you like singing, dancing, and acting. So, you should do Rainbow Stage. Yeah. And still to this day, I wonder if it was my one regret or the thing that I needed to do in order to continue in musical theater, because I felt like if I became a ballet dancer, I might have liked that more, and that might have been the route that I went into. Yeah. But because I'm still doing musical theater till this day, maybe it was the thing that I needed to do. Even though I wasn't well featured, at that point, we weren't getting paid a lot as kids. I was getting eaten alive by mosquitoes all summer. Yeah. But it was still really fun to be part of something bigger than myself. Like, I couldn't understand how I was standing on this huge set with all these amazing singer, dancers, and actors. Like, it didn't make sense to me why I was there. Yeah. At that time, but I remember feeling proud that I was a part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the moment.
That was the moment that got me curious about continuing, because it was like, what was that? And then it wasn't until from grade 7 to grade 12 that I booked my next Rainbow show. Okay. So there was a huge gap of just like, well, what was that I did? And then I ended up just doing all the musicals, and then the auditions for a chorus line came out, and by then my skill set had really advanced. So when I auditioned, I was getting hired as a dancer. Wow. In a chorus line, but hadn't really proved myself as an actor or a singer yet, because I was still obsessed with dance. And then the following season they did Fame, the musical Fame, and then I booked one of the leads then. Okay. And then it was set. It was just like, okay, I'm really doing this, because from grade 7 to 12 I was obsessed with dancing. Yeah. And then eventually I did all their musicals and all their talent shows, and I didn't want that to end. I knew that I was like, this is like the best years of my life. Like, I get to sing, dance, and act and get A+ and raise my average for singing, dancing, and acting. Like, I was always on the honor roll because of performing arts.
Okay.
And I remember in grade 9, when I was 15 and I decided to pursue this seriously, every other grade that had nothing to do with arts was falling down because my mind shifted.
Okay.
I could see it on all my transcripts.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care that I'm now getting C's and B's in science because I don't think I'm going to need that.
You started thinking about the future.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it at 15 because I thought to myself that I was already late dancing, because when I joined the Royal Olympic Ballet, I was dancing with 9-year-old girls at 13.
Yeah.
And so I could see that being like, oh, I'm late. I need to work even harder. Yeah. So 4 years of intense training at the Royal Olympic Ballet got me from beginner to medium to an advanced dancer.
Wow.
Because I just worked my butt off.
Yeah. And then it starts to get competitive.
It was so competitive, and I didn't know where this was going to lead. I didn't really, I could only dream of doing it forever. And so there was no university like
singing, dancing, acting forever.
Yeah, that's all I wanted, and I didn't know how it was going to happen. And that's what was so terrifying, because after high school, I booked a furniture gig. Like, it was for Palliser Furniture. Okay. And there was this yearly furniture convention that happened in North Carolina every year. And so I guess Palliser Furniture was a big entity, EQ3. And at that time they wanted to promote...
It's a big like furniture company based out of Winnipeg.
Of Winnipeg, yeah. And so I remember they wanted to put a male-female pop group, dancing group together to promote their furniture. So what happened was that I got chosen for that. I don't even know what the audition process was. It might have been word of mouth or maybe a video, but I don't remember actually going to an audition. And so I was cast as 3 guys and 2 girls in a band, EQ3 band. And what we did was we learned skits that we'd perform at the furniture convention. And then we learned 2 original songs that was promoting EQ3 that we would dance to and sing. Oh my goodness. And so we were at this convention for a week, and our job was to just sing and dance and act every like 3 hours. Oh my goodness. Around this furniture. It was the oddest thing, but it was a paid gig. And I remember.
No, that's cool. It goes right back to that Star Search talent show, you know.
And so it was wild to me that I was even making money as a teenager doing what I love. So what the cost of that was, I was cast as I forget what it's called, but cross cast with another actor in high school to play Joseph in the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Oh my goodness.
Which was our final graduating year musical.
Yeah.
So
at Grant Park.
At Grant Park.
Yeah, okay.
So I was forced to make a decision because this furniture convention I would miss a week of rehearsals at school. Okay. And essentially the directors of the musical weren't willing
was
to
it like
budge.
an important, like when were the rehearsals, at the beginning or was it near the end?
I don't know. All I remember, still to this day, I didn't really agree with the decision, but it was almost like a lesson they wanted to teach me about commitment. Sure. And so, and even one of my teachers said, you know, you're gonna be hired for all these things in the future, but this is something you might regret if you don't do your final musical. And I didn't understand at that time, because what they didn't understand was that coming from a really poor family, money was extremely important to me. Yeah. So if I could make money fast right away, then that was going to be appealing to me more than anything. Yeah. You know, and I could have done both. I know I could have done both. Yeah. But it was like a lesson that they were teaching me. So essentially what had happened was I decided to do the furniture convention because it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for someone my age. Yeah. And I don't regret it to this day, because I look at that being like, I'm glad that I got the experience to travel and do something that I loved with nice people. Yeah. And then what I did when I came back was I didn't want to not be part of the musical, so I offered to volunteer to film their rehearsals for their video. And so I still kept myself involved, but didn't actually do the musical. Okay. And I was proud of that decision.
Yeah. Okay, so you performing a little bit as a kid, you know, kind of around the house, kind of through like aspiring for excellence, you end up like catching the theater bug,
Yeah.
because it's sort of like they're doors that sort of by pushing on them, they open for you very easily, and then creates this whole world of dilemmas, but you're sort of navigating it. Obviously, if there's a lot of opportunity, you can't do everything, so you're taking the steps that you can take. Singer, actor, dancer, at what point does the creator bit start to become a part of your story?
I think being exposed to so much art and being part of it, you start, I think if you're a creator, you start looking at other creators, and I mean, for me, I would be like, well, why do you think that's good? Or like, why do you think that needs work? Or I would always try to get in their heads of like, why is the set like this? Or why did you cast this person? Or who wrote this musical? Like, why do we have to
just like
sing this
an
song?
Inquisitive mind?
Yeah, I was curious. Because a lot of things didn't make sense, and then some things really made sense. And I just started to form my artistic opinion. So as theater actors, we constantly go to different shows and we have our opinion, you know. And then for me, I was like, well, I don't want to be a judgy actor my whole life, like critiquing everything. I want to just enjoy things for what they are. You know. But then I thought, well, there is like the positive side of being able to critique, even if it's not verbally, but like internally, is that you're formulating your own opinion on what you think is good. And what I mean by good is like what will land or what will be entertaining, or the different definitions of
what
good.
resonates.
What resonates, right? So to me, I started like, now I go to shows just to be entertained. Like, don't even really look at it. But if the inner critic is working, then it's just collecting data to me. It's just like, okay, why do I not like this? Or why don't, and then I don't share that. I just keep it for myself, because it's just about really seeing what works and what doesn't work. It's high stakes. You know, and then eventually you want to explore your artistic opinion and put that to practice. But like, if I think that I know what is gonna land, then I got to do it myself.
Oh my goodness,
you know?
That's so interesting. That's such a like different, for me, such a different approach to creativity. That you're taking it from, you're building it off of the critical part of your brain. Of saying that is what your critical part of your brain ultimately is for you is your aesthetic. And what shape does that take? Is there an actual form there that can be shared? It's taking all that stuff where I'm like, well, that's not what I view as amazing dancing. What do I view as amazing dancing then? And then I have all those other experiences where I've witnessed amazing dancing. So then if ever I want to hire a choreographer or choreograph myself, I'm aiming for the thing that's been downloaded in my mind as excellent, you know, and then putting that all together is exciting. Like all the things that I think are excellent or that excite me as a human, I want to put in a show. And that's essentially what came to be with my musical, is that when I'm creating, it's like it's constantly about my opinion on what I think is exciting to watch for an audience, or what's going to resonate, or what's going to connect with them. So what is your music? Can we talk about it?
Sure.
What is your musical? How did you come up with the idea?
So yes, I was part of a web series called Prison Dancer, which was an all Filipino musical.
Called what?
Prison Dancer.
Prison Dancer web series.
Prison Dancer web series in Toronto. And it was the first time that I stepped on set and everyone looked like me, and it was centered around a Filipino event of like thousands of inmates dancing to Michael Jackson. And they went viral on YouTube. There's like 4+ million views on all their videos. So I was cast as one of the principal roles in that.
And you grew up dancing to Janet Jackson. That's great.
So there was a connection there with even just dance. You know, and that was a time where the lead characters were centered around 3 gay guys. Or one lead role that really sparked the virality of dancing in the prisons. So, and then he had 2 kind of like best friends, and I was one of the best friends. So it was like a trio of gay men that really sparked the love of dance with these inmates. And it was a comedic sort of musical.
And you can watch this on YouTube?
You could watch it on YouTube.
Can I share the link down below?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know the exact link, but yeah, if you YouTube Prison Dancer.
It's a whole series?
It's 12 episodes.
12 episodes. Yeah. If you want to watch any of the episodes, there's a link below in the description.
Yeah, and that was created by one of my mentors, Romeo Candido, and his best friend, Carmen De Jesus. So when I was part of that in 2011, I remember thinking, wow, that really opened my mind to the possibilities of being a Filipino artist and creating. And it actually took 6 years for me to find the courage to do it on my own. But I kept
create something on your own.
Yeah, I was obsessed with that opportunity because it was like, wow, this is the first thing that I've been a part of where I was playing the closest thing to myself, and that my culture was being seen on a bigger scale, and that someone actually took the time to do this, you know, because I was always auditioning for roles that were like Puerto Rican or Vietnamese or Chinese or anything that wasn't me, but based on the outside aesthetic was like, well, it doesn't matter, you all look the same, so here you like we can tell the story because you look like you could pass as that. And so, and I didn't like that. Like, I liked working, but it was, you might as well cast a Caucasian person in these roles because we were on the same journey of like trying to understand who this person was. I just happened to be a shade darker, you know. So I found that very interesting, in the best of ways, to be part of something that was Filipino. And then I thought, well, I can't really do that because I don't have the piano skills that Romeo does, or I don't have the experience, or whatever it was that I was holding myself back for. So instead, I was obsessed with trying to be part of the project for as long as I could. Like, in my mind, they were going to Broadway, and just recently, like, they're on their journey to maybe get on Broadway because they had 2 big openings in 2 major theaters. But that was the show that inspired me. It really opened up my eyes to possibility. And then it wasn't until 2017 where I experienced hardship in my life that sparked me to think, well, I'm either gonna go into some depression, or I'm gonna do something opposite. Which was actually like such an entertaining thought, to be like, if I'm feeling really down in the dumps right now, I can do what I've already done in the past, which was go into a depression mode where you shut off the world and you don't want to talk to anyone and you start eating your feelings or whatever vice that you have. Right? And that's what happened to me. I just like lost my dancer physique because the first time I just ate like my feelings and didn't really care. And that was a scary place to be. And then you will yourself back up through support of friends and family. And then when it happened again, I was kind of thinking, I don't want to go in that route again. I want to, like, how do I use sadness and disappointment to my advantage? And so I put it into the impossible dream, is what I called it, because to me it was like something I wanted to do when I was part of Prison Dancer, but didn't have any confidence or nerve to attempt. So when that happened, it was like, well, I need to put it into this idea. So I remember locking myself in my room, opening up my laptop and writing the title, The Filipino Musical. And I just remembered what it was like to be in grade 7 and having to create my own comic book about Athena and illustrating all the pictures myself and writing all the lines myself. And I thought, I somehow did that in grade 7. Why can't I just start like a child and attempt to do something with all the confidence in the world, knowing that it will probably be really bad, but at least I started. And so I was playing make-believe. I was like, I've been playing make-believe my whole life. Why can't I do it with the script? So I remember just having an open document, like a blank document. I wrote Filipino musical. I said, what are the characters that I'd like to see in this? And that's where all the critical like data started coming in. It's like, well, what do I want to see in the musical? Well, I want to see all Filipinos. Like, that would be really exciting because I'm always surrounded by incredible Filipino singers, and there's always like just 1 or 2 of us that are cast because for whatever reason, like there's no story where they need to see all that many bodies. I had that experience in 2011. I want to replicate that experience in my own way. And I have a lot of pride being in Winnipeg, so I knew that I wanted to set it in Winnipeg.
Sure.
And I knew that it was about a singing competition. And
how'd you know that?
I knew that because what I didn't talk about was during my early years of dancing, I was also, like after South Pacific, I had met my vocal coach there and her 2 incredible daughters, and my sister-in-law and one of my best friends. They were all part of that show at that time. That eventually became my vocal coach, my sister-in-law, and my best friend. But at that time I didn't know. But the takeaway with South Pacific was that I started training my voice. So I started taking voice lessons. And then at 15 years old, I entered my first singing competition called Tuklas Talino, which was very popular back in the day. It was a year-round singing competition held by CKJS Radio here. And they would have huge, like, grand prizes of $2,000 for first place, $1,000 for second, and like $750 for third. And they would have a children's category and an adult category. So at 15, if you're 14 and up, you're deemed an adult. So then I entered with my vocal coach coaching me singing Stars from Les Mis. And that's the way I sounded, was just like more operatic at 15. So I guess it was impressive to a panel, but I got 3rd place in my first singing competition. So I was like,
oh my goodness,
got $750, and I was proud of myself. Then 2 years later, I wanted to enter again because they started a new teen category. So now if you were 15 to 18 or 15 to 19, you could compete in this new category. And there was only 2 prizes. It was like $2,000 and $500 for each category. So there's only a first and a runner-up. And there was a children's, teen, and adult. So I entered again as a teen, and I sang a song from a new musical that I was a part of called The Wave. And it was a local playwright and composer, and I was super inspired by that. But it was like, this is a new original song that no one's heard of unless you saw this musical. I like that. Like, that's so original. Because when you're entering a singing competition, you're like, do I sing a song by Whitney Houston or like Bon Jovi or like, and it's kind of stressful because you are not those people, but you're attempting to sing a song to their level, and so it's a little bit daunting unless you want to
original voice
shift it. So then I liked the idea that it was an original musical, and at that point I had some more experience under my belt, whether it was through Rainbow or doing all the high school musicals, and I wanted to represent musicals, so then I sang that and I ended up winning. So I was like the grand teen champion of Tuklas Talino in 2001. And so I experienced what it was like to like hold the crystal trophy and the joy and the money that was so important to my family. Like this money for like 17-year-old to win.
So you're like a champion singer.
For at that time, Now I wouldn't say I'm a champion singer.
That's on your resume though.
On Tuklas. So my community, depending on how old you are, they know my name based on the singing competition alone sometimes. It doesn't matter what else I've done. They know, oh, he's a Tuklas Talino champion. And many theater...
What's this Tuklas Talino?
Tuklas Talino. It's like the strongest. It's I don't know the exact...
And it's a competition here in Winnipeg?
It was, and now it turned into Pinoy Pop Star is what it's called. And now their competition is held at McPhillip Street Station every year. So it kind of evolved. But back then, when the Pantages Playhouse was in business, that was where the venue was. So we got to compete.
Pantages Playhouse.
It's right next to...
This is like super Winnipeg culture.
It's like Centennial Concert Hall's right there, and across the street is this like dead theater that no one goes to, and it's old, and it's
a theater in downtown Winnipeg.
It's beautiful. And it was a real theater, so when you sing there, the voices would soar, and the seats were old school from like the 1920s. Like, it's beautiful.
So back to your, just to bring us back to your musical. Something that's interesting to me is hearing about, I'm hearing about your creativity coming from as a response in a way to your critical mind, right? In a way, you're sort of, you're almost challenging your critical mind to go further. Like, you know, I don't like this. What does that mean I do like? I don't like this. What does that mean I do like? But then on the other hand, you were talking about how you locked yourself in your room and you just played make-believe.
Yeah.
What's the relationship between you just allowing yourself to be free and play make-believe and the critical part of your mind that kind of, in a way, almost has like a Platonic ideal of like, this is what good dancing is, this is what good singing is. Whereas you're saying like, I'm just going to play because this is fun in a way. I'm going to play make-believe like I love playing make-believe. What's the relationship between those two parts of your brain?
Well, I think the relationship is that because I know I trust my opinion, I'm willing to play in an arena that I have no experience in. But because I have to play because of the lack of experience, I don't have the confidence to claim that I am this established composer, lyricist, playwright. Yeah. So it has to be play at first until I prove to society or whomever, the gatekeepers, that my work is not just play. It's something serious and that it can impact on a grand scale. Yeah.
Do you have to prove it to yourself, to your inner critic?
Yes, 100%. It's actually not towards other people. It is more for me. Yeah. Because I have the standard in my mind of what was excellent. So if I have the nerve to do this, which clearly I have, then when I write songs, it has to be better than things I'm hearing on Broadway albums. Yeah. And so I'm constantly attempting the impossible, but that's actually what fuels me because it's something so out of the ordinary and it's fun. It's fun to kind of break traditional norms because one would normally say, well, how dare you write a musical? You haven't gone to music school. You don't play instruments. You haven't gone to NTS and spent the incredible amount of tuition money they ask for you. So how dare you? Yeah. And I'm like, well, I don't care because you don't make the rules for my life. Sure. And there's so many people that want to make these rules, but they're actually not real. And none of them. I think that we decide what rules to follow. And for me, it really boils down to cliche, if there's a will, there's a way, because to me, it was simple. It was like, when I attempted this, I went back to when I was in grade 7, creating something from scratch. And then I was like, well, they do that all the time in schools. They ask kids to do huge projects and they finish them, you know? And so for me, it's like, I gotta just bring it back to that. It's like, if someone were to give me an assignment to write a musical, how much do I know and how much do I don't know? And it boiled down to like, anything I don't know, I'll ask for mentorship and guidance. Anything I know, I'm gonna really lean in on that. And I've been using that strategy up until this present day. And it's worked because I'm not conforming to this lie that I'm not good enough because I don't have certain types of schooling. Yeah. I've just got this visual in my mind of like you auditioning for yourself. You know, this idea of like the kid who plays make-believe on stage and then Joseph, the critic, being like, no. Yeah. And then what's it like when that kid on stage does something that the critic is like, that's good, or like just throws the papers away and is like, yeah, that's it. Like thinking about myself? Yeah, like when you actually like, I'm just thinking about like, again, the relationship between the two, because I just don't necessarily have, my creative process isn't the same as that. I don't have, I like shut the critic in the closet and I just go for it. Right? And that's great. But I'm wondering, like, with such a powerful critical mind, and such a personality that strives for excellence, I just would find it so daunting to try to like please that person. And I'm wondering what it's like when your creativity does please that person. What does that feel like? What's that like for you? Well, I think that that high expectation excellence is to not have the formal background is is the link. It's like I can feel a certain way about myself, but no one else feels that way except for me. So I have to be my own biggest fan and my biggest cheerleader, right? So knowing that, I'm able to sustain what I think is excellent, which may not be excellent for other people. And knowing that, I'm able to really play. So then, for example, I still need validation from outside sources to know, like if I get a standing O right away in, like, say my Fringe production, then there's some validation there that there was enough content there for people to jump off their seats, where I've been at Fringe shows or other plays where that doesn't happen at all. So then there's the multiple conversations I have with really trusting people where I'm like, oh, like I trust that you are telling me the truth. And so enough of that feedback really builds confidence. And the fact that, like, when it boils down to facts, it's like this is my first play I've ever written, and yet somehow the largest outdoor theater company has picked it up and produced it, and that had to go through many hoops. Of people seeing the
Can we talk? Let's just talk about that real quick. So right now, it's currently like early 2024. What's your musical called, and where is it going to be seen?
So it's called MA-BUHAY, which means long live. It has multiple meanings in Tagalog, so long live.
And Tagalog is the language,
one of the more popular dominant languages in the Philippines. There's many dialects, but Tagalog is very popular. And so it's MA-BUHAY, which means to welcome, and long live. But the way that I've separated the words with the dash, it actually means mother and life. So it's paying homage to my mom specifically, and my parents, but specifically my mom, who was my biggest cheerleader. Like, growing up in a poor family, she was the breadwinner and really saw that I could do this, you know, and I was really, really close to my mom. And so that, to me, was the paying homage to parents that supported their child's love for the arts, is what started the idea. It was like, well, what do I want to write about? Well, I want to write about the fact that I'm still doing this for a living, and that it was because of my parents and many people, but specifically, like, my mom. And
like right early in those days when the stars started to align for you in terms of, like, oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. She was right there.
She was right there, and never gave me any hurdles. Like, they never once said, you need to get your education degree or be a doctor or a lawyer. Never once. It was always like, they loved seeing me on stage. Like, and I found that now in hindsight even more impressive and fascinating that I was born into a family like that, because not everyone has that. And I don't know what it would have been like if I had parents that tried to veer me off something that was so clearly my passion. And I needed to pay homage to my family because my parents struggled till their dying day, and I just have so much core memories of them driving me everywhere, picking me up, driving me, picking me up, and like shelling out the money to do the performing arts trips in Cuba and Minneapolis, and money we didn't have, and I could only appreciate it now that they're gone. But to me, I wanted to make this musical because it is my passion. I didn't also want to give artists this stigma that if you're an artist, you have to be poor. Like, if you make the big moves, you might be financially stable if you just take the risk. And I'm not there yet, but in my mind, when you look at the grand plan, it could, when you invent something, that has massive potential. And so this is my invention. It was a musical to cater to an underserved community, to represent the best parts of their talents. So every ingredient in the show showcases dance excellence, acting excellence, and vocal excellence, which I know is ingrained in my culture. So it's MA-BUHAY, and it's playing at Rainbow Stage this summer from June 27th to July 14th.
In 2024.
In 2024, this year. And there's a cast of 22, all Filipinos, 99% Winnipeg, cultivated talent.
Wow.
And I'm directing, I'm the creator of it, but I'm directing it as well.
Wow. And it's about a singing competition.
It's about 3 characters that are at the grand finals of a highly televised fictional singing competition called Star on the Rise.
And is it based in Winnipeg?
It's based in Winnipeg. It surrounds itself between 3 characters named Honey, David, and Selena, and essentially they're all parts of me.
Yeah.
And it's commentary on issues in our community, Filipino culture. So Honey is a darker-skinned, heavy-set, poor Filipino girl that is essentially competing to win the grand prize of 1 million pesos, which is the grand prize of the sing competition, to help her family. Which is something I know what that's like. I know what it's like to do something that I love, but try to be successful in it so I could actually help the family. And then the middle character is David, and he's a closet case gay man that's living under a strict Roman Catholic household, even though his dad's a pastor and his mom's a choir director. So it's I didn't really want to identify the actual religion. It was more of just like, it could be Catholic, it could be Protestant. It was more of just that
religious
versus sexuality, right? And religion versus sexuality. So because he's a perfect son, the minute they find out he's gay, he gets booted out of the house. And so he joins the reality show to grab the attention of his parents, to try to make them proud. To be like, I'm here, I still love you unconditionally. I'm figuring myself out. Please hear me out. And essentially, and that's important because my dad was a priest growing up, and there was 4 of us sons and 3 of us ended up being gay, and like my older brother remembers my dad saying, you guys better not be gay or you'll burn in hell, and like he was terrified. And I don't remember that as a child, but all I know is that the journey with my father, who was a man of not many words with his family, that when we came out, we never got booted out of the house, and he did have a really warm and friendly opinion on all our different partners that we would bring back home and introduce. So it was acceptance. Like I witnessed acceptance in my father, which was something that I was really happy about to see. But it's still a very difficult journey for anyone that does not necessarily have the support or faith in their family that they will be safe and accepted.
And religion is there's a big relationship between religion and not being accepting.
Exactly.
And
then the third one is, she's essentially presented as the villain of the show, Selena Molina, and she's the product of Western influence. So she's super...
Selena Molina?
Selena Molina is her name, or Selena Davina Molina is her name. So she is...
My daughter's name is Rosie, and I always call her Rosita Bonita.
Yes, I mean, I love the rhyme, right? It's fun to say. And she's essentially Filipino Ariana Grande, but she's super light-skinned, super thin, lives in Linden Woods, and
what's Linden Woods?
Like Linden Woods in the Filipino culture is like, oh, you're rich and you're suburban. Oddly enough, it's like it's a South End neighborhood, and people have a lot of money there, right? So
that's where Selena Molina's from.
She's from there, She's not living in the West End. She's not even living in the Maples, where it's a suburban area for most Filipino families. She lives South End. So So
this is just like a straight up legit Filipino Winnipeg story.
And the franchise of Star on the Rise actually came from the Philippines. So they came to Winnipeg because we have the highest per capita of Filipinos in all of North America. So there is a reason for this franchise that I made up to fly in to find the talent in Winnipeg, which is one of the coldest cities in the world.
Does it take place in the winter?
Not necessarily, no. We don't really focus on that. It's mostly summer vibes, I think. But the winter is mentioned in song. So, essentially we follow these.
And I did see, I took my family to see the performance at Fringe. And it's amazing. If you're not from Winnipeg and you don't know anything about Winnipeg, it does not matter at all. It's not like just for insiders. And it's not just for Filipino Canadians to watch. Obviously, if you are Filipino Canadian and from Winnipeg, I'm sure it'll cut a lot deeper. You'll love it richly, but it's really a celebration and something for everyone to watch and enjoy.
It essentially, reading like musical theater writing for dummies, right? One of the first lessons that had stuck with me till this day is like, you need to be able to tell tell someone what your story is about in one sentence. So, and it changed, right? Essentially, it started with like, this is a story about Filipino parents supporting their child's love for the arts. Very general, you know, because I found it fascinating that in the singing competitions that I would enter, we would compete and wear tuxes and ball gowns to win this money for our families, and they would support us. They would loved it. So sometimes I would see people wearing clothes that were more expensive than the prize money that they had potential to win. And that was fascinating to me. It's like, why is it that in Filipino culture, and there's actually YouTube studies on this, where a Caucasian artist that works with a lot of Filipino artists in the Philippines actually made a video that went viral about why did he thinks Filipino singers are the best singers in the world. And it's, why is it that Filipinos support their child's love for like a career in medicine or law, and then if it's singing, they also support that, because if you're really good, they could actually see a future in that. So that was kind of the things that inspired me. Now fast forwarding to today's musical, after it's changed, essentially the musical is about a person finding oneself while pursuing their dreams, is the best sentence I could come up with right now. So finding yourself while in the pursuit of your dreams is what this is about. So essentially it's universal, because everyone has dreams. If everyone like locked into their one big dream and decided to go on that journey, which is what I'm literally doing, pursuing this writing of the musical, you find yourself. Oh my God, you really do get closer to finding who you are as a person. And that's what this musical is about. So these three that have different goals about this sing competition, different intentions, they're finding themselves as they're reaching their goal. They're at the grand finals, and they only have 2 people in their way. So it's set in the grand finals for a reason. And they're all so different that when they interact, they learn about each other. And that's why there's 3 leads and not just one. And that was also a risk too. When you're a match, it's like, why is it 3? I don't know. It just keeps saying, I keep getting 3 people, and visually, I like it.
It's a good number. It really works. No, musical's great. Can't wait to see it. If you're watching this after 2024, I'm sure you'll be able to find it somewhere. It's going to go places. So you've had, I mean, what a life. I mean, starting, again, sort of performing around the house, getting what you want somehow, finding your way into dance, and that leading to musical theater, leading to, singing, acting, creating now this musical that's happening. I mean, sort of this stage that your rainbow stage at the beginning at sort of 13 years old with South Pacific, now the musical that you have written and created is going to be on that same stage. When you think about your life and the life that you've lived, is there a central theme or a mantra? Like, what's your message for the world?
I think my message for the world is that our time is limited, so you got to figure out what you love, and you need to pursue that fearlessly, because we don't know how much time we have. So in my mind, my greatest fear is to lock into something that I don't love for the sake of security. And I really am ambitious to see myself on the other side with this musical, because it's the worst thing you could possibly do in your life, I think. I honestly, it's like, why, like, based on what society has taught us, it's like, there's no future in creating a musical. Like, that, it's so hard to do, but somehow it was the thing that clicked with me. And so instead of thinking about the stats on like, how much does a musical creator make, and what's the success rate, and like, what is it, like, what's the money like for someone that's producing a show on Broadway? It's not good. It's actually very hard to sustain a show on Broadway. So all the cards were stacked against me, But yeah, I didn't let that stop me. It wasn't about necessarily money. It was about doing something that I love really well, and trusting that the security will come after that in a different way, you know? And so I really believe that our time is limited. I could walk out there and like get hit by a bus and none of it will matter. So I always think the time is now. And so whatever that dream is, it's now that you do it, because then life becomes interesting. Because once you move towards what you're probably destined to do and be, then the universe conspires to help you. And that, I can say, is happening in my life right now. It doesn't make sense based on stats that I'm in the position that I'm in. Like, there are people that have graduated from the National Theatre School, that have graduated from music school, they're not in the position I'm in. Normally, society would be like, someone needs this amount of background to be in the position that I'm in, and I have zero of it. And I'm in the position I'm in because of something that people don't talk about, which is really manifesting your dream and acting on the now. And I think that's what I have, is that I have full belief in my vision and I'm putting action towards it, regardless of the traditional norms, and things are flowing. And no one's gonna tell me that it's not, because come June 27th, my show is gonna open. And I have 0 degree in writing scripts, 0 degree in music composition or lyricism. I have no shows under my belt that I've actually created, and somehow I've attracted the highest theater. So theater, they call it A-house theater, which is based on the amount of seats a theater has, which correlates to the amount of pay actors get and artists. The highest ranking theater in Canada is producing my show. It just doesn't make sense, you know, but to me it does, because I never wavered on thinking that it wasn't deserving of that. I just kept working and learning and working and learning, you know, and I'm humbled by the opportunity. But it was always something that I wanted to, like, if I was to create a musical, of course my sights were set on the highest goal, which was to have it land on Broadway and have the longest running show ever, and then eventually turn it into a movie or something, you know, like it's what I've seen happens to the greatest musicals. But how to get there, I don't know. I'm still on that journey. You know, I still have to make it to opening and then close the show to say, wow, I did it. And that's just the beginning chapter. Then it's about seeing if what landed and what didn't, and editing it constantly so then another theater can pick it up. So I'm just hoping it's good enough for another theater to pick up, so that the locals there that are Filipinos feel represented, whether it's Vancouver, Toronto, Calgary, San Diego, San Francisco, who knows? Like, there's lots of population of Filipinos everywhere. So I hope that those gatekeepers can see the potential, if not be blown away. And then that's how I create the sustainability as an artist, trusting in their voice and not giving up, and then being like, I'm not poor anymore. Like, I want to be able to say that to people, to be like, don't give up on your dreams, because as a performer, it's really hard to sustain a career. And that was my initial dream, was to just perform on Broadway. Now that didn't happen, but you know, maybe it's a different way of being part of Broadway. And that's kind of what's open to me now in my early 40s. I realized I still might make that dream, but just not in the way that I thought. You know, like, it might be my show that might get there. And that's my ultimate goal. Beyond Rainbow, it's like several theater companies will constantly help me to develop the show, so it's ready for an international platform like that.
Yeah. So, do what you love.
Do what you love now. It's like, everyone's made for something. Everyone has a purpose in this world. I truly believe that. And our journey as humans is to figure out what that is. I truly believe that, because otherwise, like, what is the point? I don't want to do what everyone else does, is like get a secure office job and then get a house, pay off the mortgage for my whole life, only get to get old and then have vacations when I'm in my late 60s. Like, that's not a life. Like, my life is about figuring out what my passion is, attempting the impossible, and then letting life, like, reward me or teach me. You know, I think it's more exciting for me to go into the unknown fearlessly that way. Yeah. And I could say that I'm happy pursuing it. I might not be the richest person, I might not have the nicest house or car, but those are the things I don't value that. I value purpose, and I value legacy, and I value what I can do as a human being, how that helps fellow humans around the world. Yeah. And I think that really fulfills people when they're connected to actually genuinely helping other people and uplifting them. Then of course you're gonna feel like your cup is full. Yeah.
Little side note, Joseph is also one of the incredible actors in our TV show, Rain the Meadows. And he's also the voice that's featured in the opening title sequence. Completely amazing. But no, Joseph, it's so great to sit down with you and to chat with you for a little bit. It's a real honor that you've taken the time out of your really busy schedule to sit down and kind of open up a little bit and share a little bit more about your story and your process and how you came to be where you are today. I'm so excited to see your show on Rainbow Stage and to see where it goes from here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
for having me. Yeah. And everyone else, come see my show. June 26th to July 14th.
Beautiful. Joseph, thank you.